Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're still awake. We're going to talk about how to measure success in the new world of mandatory virtual work. So let's jump into that. A couple of messages before we get started. M365 conference next year. Don't forget about that. Mark your calendars. I want to say a big thank you to all the sponsors of the event. Without this sponsorship, the event wouldn't be possible, and we're very grateful to them. And of course, there's a raffle going on, so don't forget to follow all the instructions for the raffle. If you are looking for the raffle clue for the SWOOP Analytics sponsor room, it is sunscreen, so make a note of that, and please enter the raffle to win the Oculus. And the last message that we want to share is don't forget about the donations, the charity relief funds that the event is supporting. Please give to them if you can. So a little bit about me. I'm originally Australian, but as you probably can hear, currently residing in beautiful upstate New York in the Neversink Valley, surrounded by trees. Lovely day here, nice and green, so that's nice. I'm the Director of Customer Success for SWOOP Analytics in North America. And for the last probably 15 years or so, I've been helping organizations around the world design, build, and implement enterprise social network and collaboration tools. Most recently at American Express here in New York, but also with a few other companies, including AMP back in Australia. Coco, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself and take it from here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Coco Molina. I'm currently based out of the Pacific Northwest and Redmond, Washington. Currently, I'm SWOOP as Director of Customer Success on North America West and Latin America. My background is in sales and mortgage lending, and during that time, I was able to do a lot of really complex and diverse transactions, which I believe give me the experience that I need to be able to help people with connection, collaboration, and that type of stuff. On my spare time, I like to spend time with my family and just encourage my kids to become better people.
Coco, the producers are asking you to reduce the volume of your speakers. They said that might help address the audio issues.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that better? Yeah, so now I won't be able to hear you, Luke, but I've turned it all the way down just to make sure that we don't have that. But anyway, if you didn't hear me before,
the audio is much better. I can hear you much more clearly. So if you can, yeah, just keep it low. That's good.
So, and with SWOOP Analytics, Director of North America and Latin America, what we will cover in this session, first of all, we've already done the introductions, but what you will be seeing in this session is you'll be able to hear about SWOOP and what we do. We'll also be talking about the transition recently to the remote work from home, and also the urgency to organizations to understand the effectiveness and the collaboration of their employees at this time that they are working from home. We will also be showing you what the future of measuring employees that you cannot see looks like, and how SWOOP helps customers measure success, and we give you deep insights into the metrics that will help you measure that. And then at the end, we will also have some time for some questions as well in case you have those. So SWOOP provides almost real-time data. Our offerings work with Yammer, Microsoft Teams, and workplaces like Facebook. The data SWOOP provides gives individuals deep insights into their collaboration style, and it empowers them, or will empower them, to make positive changes. SWOOP specializes in a small niche called social network analysis. And basically, it's just knowledge of how people are connected, and specifically about how they interact with each other and how that drives organizational performance. We have over 20 years of social network experience that's packaged into about 30 indicators you'll see on our dashboard. SWOOP also has the world's largest, most comprehensive benchmarking studies that are out there. They cover SWOOP for Yammer, SWOOP for Workplace from Facebook, and just recently released our very first Microsoft Teams benchmarking. We are also proud to be able to say that we work with 100 of the world's top global brands that span across the US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. If you look at the dashboard that's to the right of your screen, you'll be able to get kind of a snippet of what the SWOOP product looks like on an enterprise tab, on the enterprise tab. And if you see over to the top portion of it, it measures a certain time frame. In this case, it's a 3-month period. You'll be able to see what the key statistics are throughout your organization, across your organization, as far as users, the posts, replies, and likes, mentions, and all the important stuff that we will be measuring. It will, you'll be able to see what the user activity has been during that time frame, what it looks like. You'll be able to see it in a percentage way. You'll be able also to see what the two relationships are within your organization. And that is measured. It gives you the percentage of the conversations that are reciprocated across the organization. If your organization's goal is to break down silos, then the cross-team collaboration widget will give you insight into how well your teams are collaborating between them and across. So we know that the global COVID-19 pandemic forced a lot of organizations, I would say most organizations, to connect and collaborate without seeing each other to get the work done away from each other. So we will be touching on that as well.
Okay, so thanks, Coco, for the introductions there. Just want to confirm that my audio is okay. There are a few issues with the audio there. Does this sound okay from the? Sounds great. Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about how organizations have had to change and adapt in response to the global COVID-19 pandemic. We know that this has brought about huge challenges and new ways that are required to think about how organizations connect and collaborate and get work done. You know, in our own benchmarking work with Teams and Yammer adoption.
I got to keep the German room alive, and so I've got the German room up right now.
Galen, we can hear you. You're not muted in this room.
You can just do an hour and it'll be done.
Prince 2 has to stay up?
No, it's a new start.
Oh, okay.
That one. German's the one that kind of bridges the gap just because it's the only session when I was thinking about it after.
So in our own studies, in our own benchmarking work with Teams and Yammer adoption, you know, we've seen a huge uptick in the volume of messages. In some of our customers, it's been, you know, in some cases, double, even triple what organizations were seeing in Teams and Yammer in the pre-February sort of 2019 numbers. This signifies a couple of things to us. So one of them is that it's really a big turning point in the way that digital collaboration workspaces are perceived by organizations and leaders, and also that the value of these tools as real-time collaboration spaces for employees has shifted. You know, for a long time, we've talked about Yammer as the digital water cooler and sort of our, you know, community hub. But what we are seeing now is that Yammer communities and Microsoft Teams really going beyond that and becoming the meeting rooms, the hubs for dialogue, the spaces for knowledge sharing and connections. Things that might have normally taken place inside the office now need to happen in virtual workspaces, and the data that we have been examining has really, shined a light on the fact that this is really a thing. So as we start to see the COVID-19 curve flattening, we are hearing organizations, leaders, and team members thinking about what is the return to work strategy. And, I know that information when it comes to the pandemic is really changing every day. So what does the new normal look like, is the question that a lot of people are asking. We know that going to the office in the future, when that starts to occur, is likely not going to be how it was in the past, at least not at the beginning. You may have mandatory requirements for employees to wear face masks, or even in some workplaces, protective gear. We may need to have things like staggered breaks or socially distanced meetings. We mocked up this sign that might be on a meeting room door, and this is really the reality of what the new workplace is going to look like. Leaders will no longer be able to see all of their team at all times, and this is a really big shift for leaders and organizations, and it's really going to, we believe, require a new approach from leadership to really understand, what their employees' needs are when it comes to health and safety in the office, but also a new approach to performance measurement. I know that leaders are asking a lot of questions. When I've been speaking with our customers, they're saying, how's this going to work? How will we socially distance in the office? Do we need to, mark the floor or have desk divisions? Is co-working spaces no longer something that we can accommodate? How do I manage a team that I partially cannot see if I can only have a limited number of team members in the office? What new skills do we need to be successful in the future of work? These are things that maybe we've thought about before, but we never imagined would really be at the core of how we do business. I think some people are also asking, how are we going to get enough hand sanitizer for everyone? We know it's been in short supply, and this is something that leaders are definitely thinking about. I know a lot of leaders and organizations really thrive off the energy in the office, and the shift to measuring teams that we cannot see really requires a big shift in thinking to be successful at managing a high-performing team in the future. A lot of leaders thrive on environments when they can see people, call on them when they need information, conduct meetings around a boardroom table, stand in front of a room to deliver a presentation. Companies have focused for a long time on creating very robust in-person cultures. So in this new world, when we're really thinking about working from home no longer being a privilege but a need, the ethos of a presenteeism will really need to change. And I think that leadership in large organizations really have a choice at the moment, and that is to rethink how we measure success and pioneer new ways of performance management, or be left behind by others who do that. And I'm sort of talking here about specifically about employee goals. We currently sort of set KPIs and metrics around certain behaviors, and what we believe is that in the future, some of those behaviors or things that we really value as most important might be different. And I want to share with you sort of a few of my insights and thoughts on some of the strategic behaviors that we think will be meaningful, that perhaps we've thought about before in the past, but we've never really, taken really seriously, and potentially, include these in our employees' performance metrics. So a couple of the strategic behaviours I was thinking about, and this is in no way exhaustive. I think there's probably quite a few others that leaders should be thinking about. But the first one, making work a dialogue. In the office, this happens by default. We see people every day, we're interacting with them, we're connecting and talking and having discussions. But in the future, we'll need to do these online, and we want to be able to measure the interactions between our employees in both directions. We know that if one employee is initiating interactions and there's no reply, that's a one-way relationship, and that is something that does not create dialogue and does not create positive online culture. So we measure this in SWOOP using a two-way relationships metric, and we'll give you a little bit of insight into how that looks in the next part of the presentation. Strategic behavior number 2, facilitate connections. We know that connections are really important, and in the office, when we can pick up the phone, we can go to another floor and see someone or pop around to somebody's office. It's easy to do that. In the Teams or Yammer network, we know through our own benchmarking study research that on average, a post that has an @ in it receives about 73% more replies. So in SWOOP, we measure this by what we call the mention index, and it's an index which indicates to you how many times somebody, used the @ to facilitate a connection, and that, supports that strategic behavior. The third one is be curious. We know that we want our employees to be curious. We want them to ask questions, and we can do this and measure it in the Yammer and Teams network. We know through the benchmarking studies that I referenced a couple of times that on average, a question leads to 150% more likelihood of a reply. And in SWOOP, we measure that using the curiosity index. This tells us how curious our network is. Were people in our organization asking questions? And if so, were they getting responses? And the last behavior that I'm going to talk about briefly is bringing people with you. So this is really about creating followership, creating, leading across the organization and collaborating with people outside of your immediate business unit. We know that seeds ideas, it breeds creativity, and it encourages enterprise-wide thinking. And these are really important behaviors that maybe in the office we could have easily, been effective at. And now in the virtual world, how do we measure them? So in SWOOP, the cross-team collaboration index helps you understand how different people within your organization are collaborating across multiple teams. With that, I'm going to hand back over to Coco and let her give you a bit of insight into some of the SWOOP metrics and the SWOOP dashboard widgets, which illustrate some of these new strategic behaviors.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is the SWOOP dashboard. The SWOOP dashboard provides individuals with deep knowledge of what their personal contribution, as well as the performance of their team, the business units they are part of, and basically across the organization as well. It will provide you with actionable insights that will empower team members to create growth plans to better collaborate behaviors. To better collaborative behaviors. It will also give leaders the ability to measure sentiment around conversations and even track some of keywords or key topics, or maybe even keyword phrases that you want to be able to measure across your organization. If you look at the SWOOP dashboard to the right, it's showing you someone's personal dashboard. And it's giving you the metrics at an individual level. The key statistics show the balance between how much this person is contributing and how much they are getting back. And it gives the individual insight as far as what their collaboration style on the network is. SWOOP uses unique personas provide, if you want to go back, Luke, just, yeah, thank you. SWOOP uses unique personas that provide users a look into kind of what their social networking behaviors are like. And these personas are based on the individual's interaction on the platform. If you look over to the right, you'll see the nudge widget. And the individual get a nudge based on their activity level that encourages them to participate or engage in other ways. You'll look below and you'll see the network map. With the network map, you'll be able to identify who your core connections are in the organization. We know that building an expansive network that is rich in diversity of views and opinions is both valuable and important. The red lines in that network map will help you identify which relationships you have that are reciprocated. You want to move forward. And so some of the widgets that we think are very important that will basically what we like to refer to as a fitness tracker, right? SWOOP is kind of like the fitness tracker of your organization. Some of the really important things that you want to be looking at is what is being discussed. What are the conversations that are, or what are the topics that are fostering conversation within your organization? You'll be able to track if you use hashtags. You'll be able to track just how well those campaigns, how successful those campaigns have been. You'll be able to click on the particular hashtag and the metrics for that particular hashtag will come up and be able to measure across the 30 indicators that SWOOP has. Something that is also very important is be able to identify who your key influencers are. Who are those campaigns within your organization that are moving and driving conversation? If you're running a campaign and you want to make sure that it is successful, then these are the people that you want to tap into and to help run that campaign or help drive the success of whatever conversations you're trying to have. And as Luke mentioned earlier as well, the best way, we all know that one of the best ways to, or one of the easiest ways to drive engagement on a platform is by asking a question. And our research has shown that when you ask a question, you will get at least 150% more responses just by asking that question in a post. So it's really important to be able to drive conversation that way. The other day I heard a saying that said, it's easy to stay away from a party that you're not invited to. And so this is, I think, relative to what the mention index is all about. If you want to invite people into a conversation, there is the easiest way to do that is to invite them in, right? So what you do is that mention. And as Luke stated before, our research has shown that you'll be able to have a 73% more response when you mention someone and bring someone into the conversation than you don't. So that just drives the conversation within your organization. So we know that being able to track topic and keywords is something powerful. SWOOP provides that ability or that capability. It gives our customers the ability to perform analytics across the topics and keywords within the organization that will, empower them and give them an insight into what type of conversations are occurring within their organization. And it even has the potential to be able to accommodate variations, and of course, including typos. That always happens. And so this SWOOP AI engine analyzes the conversation related to the topic or the keyword or the key phrases, and it presents them across the 30+ widgets that we provide. So it'll give you very deep insights as far as what type of conversations are going around that particular topic or keyword. If you look over to the right, which is the topic dashboard in SWOOP, You'll be able to see kind of, if you look at the user activity, we went in, because COVID is kind of the topic right now, a hot topic. We were able to track it from February 20th to May 19th, which is a 3-month period, and you'll be able to see the type of spikes on the user activity that those created. So you'll be able to see the level of posts, replies, and likes that circulated around those particular topics. You will also be able to see the most engaging posts that those topics fostered. So these are just really important measurements that you can see based on just the keywords, key phrases, topics. So we know that right now is a really important time to be able to have sentiment analysis, be able to kind of measure what the feelings around your organization are. At SWOOP, we are able to measure the positive, negative, and neutral language within your network. And we're able to accurately predict all the way down to the sentence level. We know that sentiment is a powerful tool to be able to see what those within your organization are saying and how they are feeling about that particular maybe post, topic, or keyword. This is a powerful feature. Leaders will be able to gain knowledge of how their organization, of course, is feeling, and it gives you kind of a bird's eye view of what the individuals are posting and what their sentiment is when they are posting. If you look at the widget of sentiment by time, you'll be able to see what type of sentiment picked up around, let's say, end of April, beginning of May. You'll see that there was a lot of positive sentiment going around. If you look over at the display of sentiment, it breaks it down into the sentence level. If you look at the gray lines, it just maybe that sentence had a lot of neutral language in it. If you look at the red lines, that'll give you that the sentence had some negative sentiment within it. And the green, of course, will give you a positive, sentence had positive emotion in it. So it breaks it down, and if you go in and you click on the particular line, bring up that sentence, you'll be able to read exactly what was considered positive, what was negative, and what was neutral. And of course, we mentioned at the beginning of our presentation that we have, SWOOP has the world's largest and most comprehensive benchmarking studies, and we offer them for free. So if you just scan this, you'll be able to go to the page where you'll be able to download either the benchmarking report for Yammer or the benchmarking report for Teams. And that was, we've analyzed hundreds and hundreds, actually millions and millions of conversations to be able to provide these insightful benchmarking reports to you.
Coco, I'll just add a short plug for another session that SWOOP is hosting later today. It is with Kai Carr, the CEO of SWOOP, and he'll be talking in detail about the first ever benchmarking report for Microsoft Teams. It is going to be at, I think, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. in Australia. You can access that right here in the M365 virtual marathon, and he's going to talk about what we learned from analyzing 5,300 Microsoft Teams, some of the best and worst practices for implementing Teams. So if you're interested in that, come along to that session. He is going to give a lot more detail. that concludes this session. I'm going to see if anyone's here, if there are any questions. I'm not sure how I do that. Let's see. Am I able to see if there are any questions? Oh, here we go. This show Q&A. Where's the next presentation? No, I think mostly these are from the last session. So thanks anyone who was listening to this one. That wraps us up. We will conclude here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Coco or myself. And we will look forward to seeing you at the session on SWOOP for Teams benchmarking report later this afternoon.